Hello everybody, welcome to lesson 7. This will be the last lesson for you with us, so we thought it would be good for you to have a revision. So this revision will be will consist in two sections. In the first section, we'll try to study a text that will gather 2 units in the same time. Ethics in advertising. So you have already seen texts about ethics in business. Maybe you have met texts about ethics in sports, ethics in medicine, ethics in journalism. So ethics can be, should be respected in different domains. So today we'll talk about ethics in advertising. The second section will be a revision of all the language points you've been taught in the previous months. Okay? So let's start. So in this picture, we are contrasting 2 burgers here. So in the first one, you can see a very nice burger, a high one that is attractive, appetizing. Okay, this is how it is shown in the advertisement. But in reality, the actual Big Mac is less attractive and less appetizing. So why is it shown in the advertisement in this way? So simply to attract more people. So when you show a picture, when you advertise a product by showing a picture that is not real, this is called false advertising. Okay, this of course brings us to speak also about the opposite of false advertising, which is ethical advertisements or ethical advertising. So try to think of this. What do we mean by ethical advert? Okay, think of it a moment. Now, let's watch a video to check your answer to this question. So, what is this ethical advert? According to the video, of course, you can use your own words. You're not obliged to use the words given or used in the video. It is the one which doesn't lie, which says the truth, and one that doesn't give fake or false claims, something that does not give negative claims also. Okay? So it shouldn't incite people to do negative things. And at the same time, which is more important, it is to say the truth. So let's start reading the text. So you have to read the text very carefully and do the activities. The text is about ethics in advertising. Take the necessary time to read this text very carefully before we move to the first activity. The first activity here is about the type of the text. Okay, so is the text a letter? Is it an article? Or is it a speech? Okay, so something that can help you here is the source or the reference of the text. Of course, the text is an article. Okay, activity 2. Try to order the following IDs according to their occurrence in the text. It means as they appear in the text. Which one is first, which one is second, which one is next. Okay? So, the first sentence is, ethical advertising proves the company's transparency. Giving true information about products is a responsibility of the company. Third, it's necessary for a company to keep a good relationship with the community. Again, you can go back to the text and decide which sentence among these three appears first. The answer is B comes first. Giving true information about products is a responsibility of the company, and this is mentioned in paragraph 1. The next idea is C. It says, it's necessary for a company to keep a good relationship with the community. Okay, and it appears in paragraph 2. And finally, A. Ethical advertising proves the company's transparency. It is in paragraph 3, where it says that the company has nothing to hide. Okay, so as you can see, every idea here corresponds to a different paragraph, but this activity is not always given in this way. Okay, so sometimes you can find 2 or maybe 3 ideas that appear in the same paragraph. So you have just to read very carefully your text. Another activity is about answering the questions according to the text. Question 1. How can companies show their responsibility towards their clients? How do companies ensure a viable relationship with the community? And what can companies do to show their intention to improve the world? So, try to answer alone before you correct with us. So let's try to find the answers in the text first. Question 1 says, how should companies show their responsibility towards the needs of the customer or their clients? It is by acting ethically when promoting their products or when advertising their products. By acting ethically means by respecting ethics. Okay? So the next one, how should the company ensure a viable relationship? It is here. So one way to ensure sustainability or a viable relationship, it's a relationship that lasts, is hiring local employees when possible. Okay, it is employing local workers when possible, rather than outsourcing production to other people in other countries. Better than employing people from other countries. Okay, and the last one, what should a company do, or what can a company do to improve the world, to show that they want to improve the world? It's in the last paragraph. So to show them that they want to make the world better, this is to improve the world. How? By not only providing great products, but by being a great member of the society as well. Okay, so these are the answers. Let's see them all together here. So for the first one, they can show their responsibility towards their clients by acting ethically when promoting their products. So concerning the viable relationship with the community, one way to ensure it is by hiring local employees when possible, rather than outsourcing production to other people in other countries. Finally, how can they prove their good intention to improve the world? So you can say they can show their good intention by not only providing great products, but by being a great member of the society as well. So this is all for comprehension, for answering the questions. Another activity in comprehension, always, this is the reference words. Okay, so reference words are very important because they help us in the comprehension of the text. Okay, So the reference words given are there in paragraph 1, this in the second paragraph, they in the third paragraph, it in the third paragraph also. So let's see these pronouns or these this demonstrative also in the sentences where they appear. Ethical advertising gives consumers the information they need about products to buy and how these products will enhance their lives. So what does it refer to? Their lives, we are talking about the lives of the consumers. Okay, in the same sentence. Second one, companies had better show they have moral values when advertising to consumers because this is what makes consumers feel confident. Okay, so this is what makes consumers. So what makes consumers feel that way? It is having moral values. Okay, when the company has moral values, this is how should the answer be? Okay, the next one. Advertisers are showing others they have nothing to hide. Who are they? Who has nothing to hide? Of course, these are the advertisers. In the last one, this open display of genuine ethics can help a company in modern times gain the customer's trust and respect. Moreover, it shows them how they want to make the world better. It shows what shows that they want to make the world better. It is, of course, this open display of genuine ethics. Okay? So this is all for comprehension. Now that we have finished comprehension, let's start the second section, which is, as I said, a revision of the grammar or the language points you have studied before. Activity 1. Put the verbs in grammar in the correct form. Okay, so here are the verbs in brackets. So in order to put the verbs in brackets in the correct form, you need to pay attention to every detail in your sentence because there is always something that shows you or that guides you, that gives you details, all right, to know what tense or the correct tense you have to use. Okay, let's take the example of sentence A. Algerians to overcome their crisis, providing that they to fight bribery, nepotism, and smuggling. So the word that can help you here is the conjunction providing that. You all know that providing that expresses a condition. So as you have studied in the use of providing that, two tenses should be used with this conjunction. So providing that should be followed by the present simple and of course in this clause that expresses condition, and future simple should be used in the result clause. Okay, so in the second one, for example, the government had better to eradicate. So how should be the verb after had better? Okay, again, it's high time the government to do something to stop. So how should we use the verb after it's high time? Again, with sentence D, I wish. Okay, what tenses should be used with I wish? Of course, you need to know what type of wish is it. Is it a past wish? Is it a future wish? Or is it about a present situation or what? And finally, you have a sentence with if. Now, one of the verbs is conjugated, so this can help to find the other one. Okay? So let's correct. A. Algerians will overcome their crisis providing that they fight bribery. Okay, as I said, future simple in the result clause and the present simple after the conjunction providing that. The government had better eradicate. So the form of the verb after had better should be a stem. It means the infinitive without to. It's high time the government did after it's high time or it's about time, we use a subject, and that is followed by the past simple. Okay, the past simple of the verb. Wish. I wish Algerians more honest members of the parliament than the present ones. So this first part of the sentence is speaking about a present situation. So what tense should we use after wish when we talk about a present situation? It is the past simple. So I wish Algerians elected. Okay? And in the second part, I wish our future representatives, you see, there is another indicator here. So now I'm not regretting, I'm just wishing, I'm desiring something about the future. So what tense should we use here? It is a conditional present or the conditional simple. Okay, our future representative would be more dedicated to serve our country. The last sentence, if I were a president, what type is this? If you have a good memory, yes, this is type 2. If plus the verb in the past simple. So what should be the tense here? Conditional present or conditional simple. I would promote justice in the country. Another kind of idea that can help you in this revision is asking questions on the underlined words. Okay, so it's very important to learn how to ask questions correctly. Of course, you can need this in activities, grammar activities, or in dialogue completions, for example. We use a telescope to magnify distant stars. So the words that are followed, that are underlined here are to magnify distant stars. Okay, so what are we asking the question about here? It is the function of the telescope, right? And this can help you to find the interrogative pronoun you are going to use in this question. So two things are very important when asking a question. The question word or the interrogative pronoun and the structure of the sentence, I mean the correct form of the verb. All right? Don't forget to pay attention to the word order, okay, in the question. The word order is very important. So we are going to discuss this in this activity. So take the necessary time to do this activity and then correct with us. We use a telescope to magnify distant stars. All right, so we are asking the question about the function of the telescope. All right. When you ask a question about the function of something, you ask the question in this way. What do we use a telescope for? So the question word here is what for. What in the beginning and for at the end. All right, now pay attention to the verb. Do we use? We have introduced the auxiliary of the present, do. Why? Because my verb here is in the present. So make sure you keep the same tense in your question. Okay? The second one, the telescope was invented in the 16th century. So this phrase that is underlined indicates the time. That's why the question should be when. Okay? When was the telescope invented? My verb was invented here is in a passive form. That's why I have an auxiliary in the past plus a past participle. Now what should you do is to inverse the auxiliary with the subject to get this form. What was the telescope? When was the telescope invented? Okay? So here, when you compare it to the first one, we didn't bring any auxiliary. Why? Because I already have an auxiliary in my verb here, was invented. So I don't need the auxiliary do or any other. Thousands of satellites revolve around the planet Earth. So this underlined phrase, thousands of satellites, is the subject of the sentence. Now, what is the question you ask to find a subject? So it can be who, if it is a person, or it can be what if it is an object, and in this case it is what. Now pay attention to the verb. What revolves around the planet Earth? You can notice that the verb is in the singular. That's why we have added the S of the third person of the singular. Why? Even though this the word to find is plural, okay? Thousands of satellites is plural, but my verb here should be in the singular. Why? Well, simply because we are not supposed to know beforehand that the answer will be plural or singular. So the next one, the Hubble Space Telescope weighs more than 11 tons. Okay, so we are talking about the weight. The question should be how much. Okay, when it concerns the weight, the question is how much does the Hubble telescope weigh? Okay, for the verb weighs. Okay, because it is in the third person of the singular, so we use does instead of do, plus the verb in the infinitive. Okay, right. Now you may notice that, let's come back to sentence 3, what revolves around the planet Earth? There is no inversion here. Okay, there is no inversion. The verb is conjugated in a very normal way. Why? Well, simply because in order to inverse, we need a subject, and in this question, we are looking for the subject. It is absent. That's why we conjugate the verb normally. Let's continue with the other sentences. All the planets are spherical in shape. So here we are asking the question about the shape. And you should say, what shape are the planets? What shape are the planets? All right? As you can see, there is an inversion of the verb, which is an auxiliary at the same time, and the subject, which is planets. It takes Mercury less than a year to orbit the Sun. So what are we talking about here? Less than a year is the time it takes. All right? So, because it is about time, so you ask the question, how much time? How much time? Then, concerning the verb, okay, as we did for the other verbs previously, does it take, because it contains this S of the third person of the singular. How much time does it take Mercury to orbit the Sun? Okay. The 1985 space mission was successful. So the underlined word here is the 1985. All right? So the question is which space mission was successful? So we know it is a space mission, but we don't know which one. All right, so if the underlined word here was or were the 1985 space mission, all this was underlined. In that case, you would say what was successful. What was successful, because the underlined words are the subject, but it's not the case in this example. All right. The moon is 384,000 kilometers far from the Earth. So we are looking for the distance here. Okay, we are looking for the distance between the moon and the Earth. So of course you could say, what is the distance between the moon and the Earth? And this is very correct. But there is a much better question. We're using the adjective far. Say, how far is the moon from the Earth? Okay? Let's move to another kind of activities. So normally you are accustomed to this. Rewrite sentences B so that they mean the same as sentences A. So in this kind of sentences, you need to pay attention to the prompts here. It means the beginning of sentences B. And these are the indicators for you to know what kind of sentence you need to transform. All right? So, for example, migrants are being exploited and mistreated by criminal traffickers. When you are asked to start the sentence with criminal, here, by criminal traffickers is used in the previous sentence as an agent, okay? Because it is a passive sentence. So the agent here becomes a subject of sentence B. So you are asked to turn it into an active form, okay? So pay attention also to other details to have a correct answer. So let's correct. Migrants are being exploited and mistreated. So what tense is this? Are being exploited. You have here the present and you have the ing form, okay? So this is the auxiliary to be, which is in the present continuous plus the past participle of the text. So my passive sentence is in the present continuous. That's why I have to use the same tense in the active sentence, starting with criminal traffickers are exploiting. So how did I get this form? From the same form as the auxiliary to be, are being, so are exploiting. Of course, you need to pay attention to your subject. If it is plural, you keep are, and if it is singular, you have to change it into is or am, depending on the sentence, on the subject given, of course. In the first sentence, you have a past participle followed by another past participle. See, are being exploited and mistreated. And since we have turned the sentence into active voice, so we no longer need a past participle, we use the present continuous in this form, the auxiliary to be plus a present participle. Okay, so the other one also should be a present participle. Are exploiting and mistreating migrants. Okay, so you have to make all these changes. Second sentence, you should have done something to motivate your workers and make them more productive. Okay, the sentence normally should start with it's high time. Okay, and as we said, the verb that should be used after it's high time or it's about time should be in the past simple. Now, where is my verb here? Should have done is the verb, from the verb to do. That's why we use did in the past. Say, it's about time you did something to motivate your workers and make them more productive. The rest of the sentence doesn't change. 3, people didn't have appropriate instruments. Thus, their knowledge about space was limited. Thus expresses consequence or result. The sentence be should start with because of. It means that you have to inverse your sentence to get a correct sentence. Because of, not because. All right? Because of. It means that you need to make certain changes. So it's not correct, for example, to say because of people didn't have appropriate instruments. No. I need to remove the verb to get a noun phrase. But because, so the noun phrase here is appropriate instruments. Now, the problem is that my verb is negative. So how can I use a negation with a noun phrase? So the solution is to say because of the absence of appropriate instruments. Okay, so the absence here, the word absence replaces the negation that was used in sentence A. Okay, don't forget to remove thus, since it is already replaced by another conjunction expressing cause. Okay, so the sentence should be because of the absence of appropriate instruments, comma, people's knowledge about space was limited. Another sentence, youths are aware of the dangers in the sea, but they take risks. So my sentence here expresses opposition with the but. You are asked to rewrite the sentence with despite. Okay, despite expresses concession. Despite is a bit like because of, okay? It should be followed by a noun phrase. So again, we need to make certain changes. You remove the verb. So once you remove the verb, what is remaining? Aware of the dangers of or in the sea. Okay, it's not enough. We need to turn our adjective into a noun. Awareness. So you say, despite or in spite of youth's awareness of the dangers in the sea, comma, they take risks. Notice that we have removed but. Okay? Now suppose that you don't know the the noun of this adjective. Okay? There is another solution. It is to use the gerund. Despite being aware. See, how did we bring this word, this gerund, from the verb used in the sentence? The verb is are from the verb to be. You add ing and you get a gerund. So it can be used with any other verb, okay? Have, having, make, making, and so on, okay? So if the verb is in the past, first turn it into the infinitive and then add ing to get the gerund. Now there is one condition to be able to use this form, the gerund here, despite being aware of the dangers in the sea, they take risks. The condition is that the subject in the second sentence and the subject in the first one should be the same. So is it the same here? Yours in the first part and they is exactly the same. So it is possible to use being or a gerund. Okay, so if you have a subject in the first part different from the subject used in the second sentence, so it's not possible to use the second form. You need to use the first one. I hope it's clear. There was a job advertised in the newspaper. I regret not having applied for it. So the sentence should be with if only, to express wish. If only and I wish is exactly the same, and it should be used with the same tenses. Only 3 tenses: past simple or past perfect or conditional simple, conditional present. So it's clear that the sentence expresses regret. I regret not having applied for it. Okay, this is a regret. Now, is it a regret about the present or is it a regret about the past? Of course, not having applied is past. So the tense you have to use is if only I had applied for the job advertised. Okay, this is expressing wish. Activity 4 in grammar, always. Combine each pair of sentences with the connector given in brackets. Okay, and of course you need to make the necessary changes. So what are the words given? And like, though, in order to, provided that, and as long as. We have already seen most of these words. So pay attention to the place where you have to use these connectors. It can be in the beginning or in the middle, and the necessary changes you have to make. Okay, let's start the correction. So in sentence 1, stars shine with their own light. Planets give off no light of their own. So it's clear that there is a contrast here between the two sentences. We are trying to express it with the connector and like. We have already said that and like should not be used before a verbal phrase. Okay, it should be used before a noun phrase. So we need to make certain changes. The sentence should be, and like stars, okay, the first element in this comparison, comma, planets give off no light of its own. You keep all the sentence as it is. Or, and like planets, comma, so you remove all this part, stars shine with their own light. Okay, that's it. Governments are making effort to eradicate fraud. It is still prevalent in our society. It is still existing in the society. Now let's try to express a concession with the though. Okay, now which one is a concession among the two here? Of course it is the first one. Say, though governments are making effort to eradicate fraud, comma. Okay, pay attention to the punctuation, and since you change the full stop into a comma, you have to remove the capital letter. Pay attention to all these details, it's very important. Though governments are making effort to eradicate fraud, comma, it's still prevalent in our society. Is it possible to inverse the sentence? Yes, of course. Okay, so you say fraud to replace it. Okay, to replace it, we can use fraud. Fraud is still prevalent in our society, though governments are making effort to eradicate it, to avoid the repetition. Okay? Now let's write a sentence with in order to express a purpose, of course. In order to, as you can see, it should be followed by a verb, right? So again, we need to make changes in the next sentence. So where is the purpose here? Is it the first part or the second? No, it's the second one. Say, some employees may deceive their bosses. What for? In order to earn more money. So we have replaced they want, which is expressing purpose in this sentence, by in order to, followed by a verb in the infinitive. Okay? Next sentence. They respect the code of ethics of their company. They keep their jobs. Okay? With provided that or providing that, it's the same, to express condition. Now, which one is the condition? Is it the first or the second? Of course, respecting the codes of ethics is the condition for keeping their jobs. So, provided that should be in the beginning. I mean, before this part. Okay? So, the sentence is, they will keep their jobs provided that they respect the code of ethics of their company. Okay? So the conjunction here is put in the middle. Of course, it could be also in the beginning, saying, providing that they respect the code of ethics of their company, comma, they will keep their jobs. Okay? So, your business prospers, you behave ethically, again, as long as expresses condition. Okay? It's exactly the same as provided that or providing that or as long as, so long as, all these are the same, express the same function. So which one is the condition here? Is it to behave ethically or to prosper in the business? Of course, to behave ethically. So you say, as long as you behave ethically, your business will prosper. Or you can put it in the middle also. Your business will prosper, this is the result, as long as you behave ethically, which is the condition. Now, let's move to the same kind of activities, combining sentences also, but this time not with connectors that are given in brackets, but with connectors that are given in a list. Of course, this makes the task a little bit more complicated. Well, not difficult, but a little bit more complicated. Well, because you need to guess the function that is expressed in each sentence first, and then use the correct or the appropriate connector accordingly. Okay? So to guess, of course, you need to be logical, simply. There is no other way. Corruption is widespread. Okay, you can find it everywhere. It is widespread. Many associations launched an international campaign to eradicate the phenomenon. All right. So what is expressed here? Is it a condition? No, there is no condition. Is it a contrast? No, there is no difference. Is it a warning? No, there is no warning. So, is it a consequence? Maybe it's a consequence. All right. So try every time to choose one of the connectors given to see which one fits more and which one creates a meaningful sentence. Okay, let's try to correct. Corruption is widespread. Let's use so that. Corruption is so widespread that many associations launched or started an international campaign to eradicate. It means, you see, for this purpose. So launching international campaigns is the result of what? Of having corruption everywhere. So that expresses consequence with intensification. What are we intensifying here? Of course, it is the adjective widespread. So the way you use so that is this way. So plus adjective plus that. Of course, you can use it differently in sentences that contain not an adjective alone, adjective plus noun. Okay, we have seen this in the previous lesson. Businessmen will pay their taxes honestly. The economy will prosper. Okay. So the logical function you feel that is expressed in these two sentences or between these two sentences is condition. So which one is the condition? Paying the taxes is the condition for the economy to prosper. So we can start the sentence. The economy will prosper as long as businessmen pay their taxes honestly. Okay, and as I said, as long as can be in the beginning with all this condition. The next one, a bribe is an act of corruption. A gift is not an act of corruption. So here, the two sentences here create a sort of contrast between the gift and the bribe. So we have to use whereas. Whereas should be used in the middle and not in the beginning. So say, a bribe is an act of corruption, whereas a gift is not. You see, we have also removed or avoided the repetition of act of corruption, which is an indesirable repetition here. We could say, whereas a gift is not an act of corruption, but it's not really necessary. People are reminded of moral standards. They don't cheat. So here we are going to express condition or warning also with unless. Unless people are reminded of moral standards, they won't cheat. Pay attention to the change in the tense here, because unless should be followed by the present, okay? But the second part should be in the future. That's why don't cheat becomes won't cheat. Okay, so this is all for the grammar. Now let's move to the last part, which is the writing. Now, after having revised all this grammar, it's time to reuse it in order to produce something that is related to the text that we dealt with in the beginning of this lesson. So the topic says, you witnessed the dishonesty of a company behind an advertised product that is not as it seems to be on its TV advert. So use the following notes to write a magazine article of about 80 or 100 words in which you say how unethical it is to deceive consumers. Okay, how unethical it is to lie to people. So you have to develop these notes. So you have to say that it is disrespectful and irresponsible from the part of the company towards their consumers to behave unethically or to advertise unethically. Okay, why? Because this can put the public health in danger, especially when we talk about food and medicines. You can give examples here. You can also say that it is not only unethical but also illegal to give fake information to people. Okay, so the last one could be used in the conclusion, saying that unethical advertising is not only bad for the customers, but only bad for, it can be negative for the company itself, because they will lose their customers' trust and respect. So this is all. The lesson is finished. I hope all these lessons were beneficial for you and they will help you in the revision of your exam. So thank you for watching and good luck for your exam.
شكرا على المشاهدة. لا تنسوا الاشتراك في القناة، الضغط على الجرس، الإعجاب بالفيديو.